Welcome to the Roy Rundown, a podcast designed to share insights and secrets from top experts in the college sports landscape, guiding you along your own path to success. Join us in real time as we build Roy, dive into the latest NIL trends, and uncover stories from the movers and shakers in the sports business space. You'll hear from an all-star lineup of guests, including athletes, coaches, agents, fans, athletic administrators, and more. Whether you're a student athlete, passionate fan, or anyone in between, this is your go-to resource for leveling up in the new age of college sports.
Hello, college sports fans. Welcome to another episode of the Roy Rundown. I am your host, Brandon Brown, Sports Insider here at Roy, and I am super excited today to talk to our guest. If you're a hockey person, like this is a dude you're going to want to listen to, lock in. And look, I've talked to him a little bit before we started here. I'm a football, basketball guy, so I'm learning a ton just hearing him talk about his experience, how he got to where he's at. He's been drafted already, even though he's just a freshman in college, and he's talking about getting bigger, stronger, faster. He's talking about the rest of his freshman season. I'm a sponge right now. I am learning a lot from this young man. He's doing a great job. I was telling him earlier, he's like a pro already. He's basically a professional when it comes to doing the questions and answering everything. So I'm super excited to introduce Zach Nehring, forward from Western Michigan University. And look, Zach, I didn't tell you this yet because I wanted to save it for the podcast. And I know they don't have an official hockey team, so it might not be as big of a deal. But I'm actually a Central Michigan alum, you know, the whole Central Western thing, you know. So I'm trying to swallow that down a little bit and enjoy the time here with you as rivals. But no, man, it's been awesome to talk to you a little bit already. And thank you for joining us today to talk about your experience and kind of how you got where you got. And also, to talk about Roy and the world of NIL, which has changed so much over the last handful of years. But as a young guy in college, it's really all you know. So I'm very excited to kind of hear about that from your standpoint as well. But first things first, man, you're a North Dakota kid. Is that right?
Yeah. Born and raised North Dakota.
Born and raised, played a lot of different places. I know that's kind of how hockey works. You've got teams all over the place, different levels. And now you're at Western Michigan, and the Broncos are off to a phenomenal start this year with legitimate national championship aspirations. So let's just take it all the way back, man. When did you start skating? When did you start playing hockey? And how did that go until, let's say, from the start till you realized, like, dang, man, I'm pretty good at this. I might be able to do a little bit with this thing.
Yeah. No, so growing up, I was about 2. My dad just threw some skates on me. Actually built an outdoor rink just in our backyard. So, I mean, that's unbelievable as a kid. Just starting to play. I mean, it's right in your backyard. You go home from school, hop on the ice. So, yeah, just doing that first couple of years. And then you got the squirts. It's like, I want to say 7, 8 years old, maybe even 6. You kind of start playing organized team. So I just did that locally in Minot for the first 3-4 years. And then kind of starting after that in the summer, I started going up to Canada. My mom's from Canada. So just playing summer hockey up there. And at the age of 10, I got invited to play in the Brick International Tournament. So that's the best 10-year-olds in North America, pretty much. There's only a few imports that teams can bring. So it's mainly that. That's kind of when I first realized, hey, I'm pretty good at this, but you're still pretty young. So obviously you don't know how you're going to end up. Then continued out back in Minot throughout Pee-wees. So I'm about middle school age around there, continuing to play summer hockey in Canada and Minnesota. And, you're traveling all over. I think by that time I've already played in 14 other states. So crazy experience, a lot of running around. Huge props to my parents for driving me and all the sacrifices they made. A lot of family as well had to drive me up too when they're busy. But yeah, it was about 14, right before my freshman year of high school. I was looking at Shattuck St. Mary's, just the huge legacy they have with all those NHL guys like Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, Taves. There's a huge list. I go on forever. But I found out I could get a tryout with them, and I did that. Was looking into a few other spots to play. I didn't want to stay in Minot. I kind of wanted to expand. And I got a call that I got in, and I told my parents I didn't care how much it cost. I was going there, and fortunate enough they were able to do that for me, and super grateful. Like I was saying to you earlier, that I think that's the best 4 years I've had hockey wise and friendship wise, just growing as a person as well. Leaving home at 14, you got a lot to learn, and we're all dorming, so you're just with a bunch of other 14-year-old kids.
Man.
You're all experiencing it for the first time together. So that was amazing. And then I'd say pretty steady play around the first 3 years of high school, and coming into my senior year, didn't really know what was going to go. I was committed to Western already at the time. I committed there in my junior year. But more so just touching on what you were saying, when I thought I made it, I found out I was put on the NHL Central Scouting List, which is basically the first list that they release of the top prospects for the draft that coming year. And that was kind of like wow. Like I actually didn't even think I was on it. My buddy actually called me and told me. I had no idea. So that was kind of like, wow, like I was already, but I just had more motivation than ever to really hone in on everything I've been doing and just realize that this is a reality and I could actually achieve this. So to answer that, I know it was long, but that's
great. Yeah, that was great. Big props to your parents, I guess, like you said, and probably turned out to be an all right investment. I'm not going to dive in deep to the tuition at a school like that, but I think it worked out all right. And it's funny you mentioned that, man. Like I had my roommate in college was a big hockey guy, did all the travel hockey and played since he was 4 or something like that, same type of thing. And even when we were in college, still his parents would show up and do all this stuff for him with hockey, played like intramural at CMU. And dude, like the hockey bags that are like as big as a car that you take out. Like I know that world like a little bit just from kind of watching it from afar, but I'm kind of interested in how you said before you even found out about the NHL scouting list and some of that stuff, you were already committed to Western Michigan. Again, I'm more of a football buff, so I know that calendar and I know how it works. How does the recruiting process work for hockey when you're at like a hockey machine place, like you mentioned, the school that you went to? So it's kind of like you kind of know that's going to be your path. But how does the recruiting process work? How many teams are hitting you up? Like you have coaches coming to your school? Like how does that work for a young hockey prospect?
Yeah, so it was actually pretty crazy. Just growing up around my time, I want to say it was maybe a year or two older than me. All those kids there was no rules, so they were able to commit to college teams when they were 12. I knew multiple kids that committed to Minnesota when they're 12 years old. And I mean, I'm looking at that and I'm like, I'm just coming home from middle school class, like playing video games. Like I've not even thinking about college. But
eating PBJs, eating cookies, whatever else, right?
Yeah. I'm just happy to be there. But just a few years later, they implemented the rule. So I actually don't know exactly what they are, but it's more like, I want to say sophomore year of high school, then you can start like kind of looking around, but you're not able to talk officially to like teams about committing until your junior year. So it's like January 1st or something like that, I want to say. I could be wrong as well, but there's certain dates that when you hit that in high school, you're able to start talking to teams and then verbally committing to teams, and then you can sign your national letter of intent. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. And obviously everyone's different with how their recruiting process goes. But for me, I honestly wasn't the highest rated prospect coming out of my sophomore season. So coming to my junior year, kind of felt like I had a lot to prove still. And I already had a bunch of kids talking to teams already. And then by the time that deadline hit junior year, they were already all committing to schools. And for me, I didn't even talk to any like about committing at the time. So you almost kind of feel left out in a sense, or it's good motivation. And then I'd say around Christmas time, my junior year, that's kind of when my play started kind of to take off, and a lot of teams started reaching out. The thing that's awesome about Shattuck St. Mary's and was a huge reason why I wanted to go there is the coaches. They're all either NHL coaches, past NHL coaches, or they've all played Division I hockey, pro hockey. So their connections are just, you can't even mention how many people they know in the hockey world. But as well as all those teams that we play, they're all the best kids for our age. So all those college teams are watching your games, whether they're looking at you or not. So it's just a great way to, get your name out there. And that's kind of just how that worked out for me. Teams were coming to watch our team play. They liked my game, and then would kind of get in touch with me through my coaches. We would, set up calls. And then after that deadline, I could start going on visits. And for me personally, I kind of wanted to stick into the NCHC. It's just one of the leagues for us. There's a lot of them. There's so many schools out there. But that's just kind of what models my game the best, I think, is I thought that's where I would fit in the most. So I was kind of just sticking it to around those 7-8 teams. North Dakota was one of them. Just growing up there, always went to their games. Duluth, Western Michigan, saying all those teams. Jason Herder, my coach, actually was a huge reason why I started talking to Western Michigan. I had a good relationship with him before when he was at Duluth, and then he came over here. And then I went on a visit right after Christmas time, I say, and had that first conversation with Coach Pat Frischweiler, and right there I knew that this was a place I wanted to be. I wanted to be a Bronco, and that was the way I played, everything about it, their identity, what I wanted, and the school and the fans. You can't complain at all. So I think that's the time I knew that I wanted to come here. And you verbally commit to the school. It's just kind of like an agreement. You can back out whenever you want, but it's more of like a respect thing with the coach and the player. And then come your senior year of high school, you can sign on signing day, and that just kind of locks you into that school. It's tough to get out of those agreements. So I signed, and then, kids play junior, they go right in. So I took a year, played junior hockey in the USHL, and then now I'm here. So it's definitely a process. There's a lot that goes into it. I could ramble on forever about it, but I don't even know all of it. So
no, I think that's really cool. Like I said, I mean, I'm much more familiar with the world of football and basketball, and it's similar. I mean, you've got those dates, and you get your NLI, and you sign, and you commit, and you go on visits. But yeah, like you said, some kids choose to go right in. Some play juniors or whatever. Yeah, that's where it gets a little bit different. But now you're at Western. You're a freshman at Western. You were already drafted. I don't want to steal your thunder too much because I want you to talk about that process as well. But you were drafted by the Winnipeg Jets in 2023 early entry draft, and I can't even imagine what that must be like as you were maybe 17, 18 years old at the time.
Yeah, I was 18.
Had to be crazy. So what was that like? Just finding out that dude, the NHL is really probably like my future. Like that must be crazy, even as you're sitting there right now. But also, like you said, going to Western, being a freshman, and being a part of that team that you committed to.
Yeah, I mean, that whole experience is just unbelievable. Something I'll never forget. But just everything leading up to that, the whole year, it's a lot. Right away when those lists come out, that's kind of when teams start reaching out. And there's weeks where I'm talking to 4 or 5 teams in a week. So you kind of got to, schedule everything out, get the Zoom calls on top of when you're skating, have school. It's tough. And then they're coming to watch practices. So sometimes you meet in person. Not a lot of the scouts can. So most of them are on Zoom, but you're doing calls all the way up till right before the draft even. I remember it's around June, but so we finished school around April, May, and then the combine, the NHL combine list came out, and I got selected to that. So that's around, they changed the number, but I want to say it's top 100-ish prospects in the draft get invited to that. So I mean, that was unbelievable finding out I was selected to go there. And when you go there, you get to hang out with all the top prospects and do all the testing stuff, but you're doing interviews all week. I think I had like 20 something. I could be wrong, but
Wow.
you're meeting with all those teams again. You walk into those rooms, there's like 7 to 15 of the people in the organization just sitting around the table. A little intimidating at first, but you get used to it. But it's awesome talking to those guys. They know so much, and it's an unbelievable experience. And after that, you have a few weeks off, and then you're going right back to Nashville. I was able to go out there for the few days. Had my whole family come down, so that was great. I think ended up being around 20 of us. Really cool. I mean, I can't even describe the feeling of my name being called. You're just sitting there waiting. You kind of have an idea of where you're going, but you never actually know for sure. And honestly, you just kind of black out. I was remember trying not to fall down the stairs. I'm going to get my jersey. But yeah, I mean, you try to just take it all in, because I mean, you don't have too much time. You can only do that once. Just remember every moment. It's super special, and super lucky and grateful to have been able to experience that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I can't even imagine. I mean, I'm 40 and I still would probably fall down the stairs, man, if I got drafted by any team.
I think I was close.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So, slight pause button on the NHL for now. You're at Western, halfway through this season, or give or take. And what do you love about being a Bronco at this point, as you're kind of pretty acclimated at this point, still a young player, but got 14, 18 games under your belt or whatever it is, and really settling in as a student. What do you love about the school? You said you like the academic side of things. Just what's your love, your level of love of being a Bronco?
Yeah, I mean, it's super high. I mean, I love it here from the moment I've visited and the moment I stepped on campus this summer, training with the guys, and then coming here to start school. The guys have been great. I think that's the biggest thing. The coaching and the players here have been excellent. Really bringing in. We're honestly a family. Everyone's there for each other. They hold you to high standards, but they're also there for you if you ever need anything. And I think that's huge. Coming into games, it really makes a difference if you win or lose. Just how tight your team is. Like we had a whole Thanksgiving dinner. Our captain cooked the whole meal. We had the whole team come into my place, and we all ate downstairs. I didn't have a choice, but we used my house. It worked out great. And yeah, a lot of fun. Just things like that is super special to be able to do that. And yeah, I mean, like the fans are awesome. You see them in class every now and then. It's fun to talk to them. They get super excited, and I mean, it makes me excited to want to go to the next game and play for them out there. So it's been great. The classes haven't been too hard. I mean, as a freshman, it's a lot of core classes, but I love it. So yeah, I mean, it's been great, and hopefully have another amazing half to the rest of this year.
That's pretty cool. And you mentioned the amazing half of the rest of the year. I was just kind of pouring over the schedule real quick. You've only got 4 losses, and they're literally to like the best teams out, like number 1, number 2, number 3 in the country, like Michigan, Michigan State, Boston College. Like that's about as good as it gets. Then who was the last one? Denver, I think, maybe, as I was looking. Yeah, one loss to Denver in overtime. Like, yeah, that's crazy. So you mentioned how special the season is for you as a freshman, how good things are going, and you have legitimate national championship aspirations. What does that all mean as a hockey program, and then kind of pulling the fans into that too? You said they talk to you when you're in class. You mentioned where you play at Lawson and how crazy it gets in there, and just kind of give a quick synopsis of what it's like to be a hockey player at Western on a game day with those fans.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. Like I was saying, they definitely make a huge difference for us winning games at home. They bring the energy. If we don't always have it to start the game, we definitely get it from them. We build off each other almost. And it's super cool. I remember like first time going up to the rink, and there's just a huge line, and we get there like 2 hours before the game, and there's just a huge line just wrapped around the building. The fans are yelling, screaming, like they're just loving life. And I just thought that was amazing. Like not a lot of play. I don't even know if anyone else does that. Like our fans are just awesome.
You grew up playing in North Dakota and Canada, and that's something you hadn't really experienced before. That's pretty cool.
I mean, like North Dakota, obviously they got that rink, they get a lot of fans, but
Yeah,
I think like they're not as hardcore. Like they're
that's
not.
awesome.
I don't know. They're more like us. We see them in class and stuff, and then they're at the games, like just yelling, screaming, having the time of their life, and it's awesome to see that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think we were playing Colorado College, and we're in a shootout, and number 4 on their team's going to shoot, and that's one of our lunatics chants is just about number 4, and I can't really say exactly what they say, but they come to one of the games. Yeah, it was. I mean, talking to the guys after the game, they were saying it's the loudest they've ever heard the building. So I mean, the whole building is chanting at this kid coming down. He thankfully missed, but it was probably the coolest thing I've ever witnessed. It's just the level of intensity they bring, and it's awesome. We love their support.
That's so cool, man. Got me feeling a little chills right now, man. I want to get out there and get in Lawson and see what it's like, man. That's really cool. It's really interesting to talk to someone like you who's just kind of getting your collegiate career started, and who knows where that will lead as you've been drafted and stuff like that. But the NIL landscape is it's all over the map. It's very different for different sports. It's very different for different athletes depending on your level. And I mean, you could talk for hours and hours about NIL alone. But I'm curious from your standpoint. I think most people would say football and basketball are kind of up here, and then women's basketball, hockey, some of the other sports are here when it comes to NIL. So what have your experiences with NIL been like in your short time at Western, and just kind of your overall thoughts on it in general as a freshman? It's all as a collegiate athlete.
Yeah, I mean, fortunate enough for me, I came in as already implemented. It's a recent thing, and like you said, it's definitely a lot bigger. Football, basketball. I mean, you see some of those things and deals that those players are getting. It's hard to believe actually, but it's definitely cool. You see those players with all their following that they have on social media and the impact they bring to their school and the games. I definitely think it's a cool thing to have, and it's great for those athletes. I think they deserve something if they're bringing in that much, support and stuff to the school. And yeah, it's been a lot for me. It's been still pretty new. I'm still learning a lot about it. Even here at Western, we're honestly just kind of getting into it as well. But it's been really cool. Everyone's great. They reach out. You can also reach out as well, and just try to set up stuff there. But even around here, you can get a discount on a haircut if you want, or something like that. Get a free breakfast at one of the spots around town. So it's cool. Definitely a lot to learn, and I'm still kind of figuring it out as well.
Yeah, no doubt. And we've been really excited for the first school that we have officially partnered with here at Roy, Western Michigan. And so, all the sports, all the athletes, we've had football on, we've got hockey on. I know some women's basketball players. We've done a little bit of everything with different players. I don't expect you to be an expert, but what do you know about Roy? What kind of drew you into that? How much have you learned in the last, I don't know, it's probably only been a couple weeks. But yeah. What do you know and enjoy about Roy so far?
Yeah, no, I've learned a lot just from talking with you guys the last few weeks. But I think it's a really cool app. The transparency is the biggest thing that I find cool, is how the fans are able to support their athletes just by going in the app, picking and choosing the player that they want to support. They can send money however much they want, and within seconds, you can see that it's the players who already received it. I think that's cool. They know where the money's going. And another thing that I found pretty unique actually was that the players' money that they accumulate throughout the season, they're not able to take it out until their last game. And if the player for some reason decides to hit the transfer portal, the fans actually get that money back into their pockets. So I found that super cool. Just fans are able to support their players, kind of get more involved if they want, and try to, keep their players around. So yeah, it's, learning about it. There's still a lot more for me to find out, but I think what they're doing is really cool and definitely something.
Yeah, we're super excited to be partnered with Western Michigan. I mean, every time I'm scrolling on social and I see tonight's starting lineup at Western sponsored by Roy. I'm like, damn, that's cool, man. I like seeing that. And, like I said, I've talked to a couple of the football players. They've been great. You've been awesome to talk to. And we're just really, really happy to have that partnership moving forward. And yeah, I do think it's, you highlighted it as a good thing. Like if a player decides to leave, those fans aren't just left high and dry. They get that money back. And I mean, I think that's fair. That's
yeah. No, I agree. I mean, if the fans are, putting their money into a player to, keep him around because they love watching him play. Mm-hmm. I think if he leaves, they should get their money back. I think that's what's so cool about it and what makes Roy unique and different from everyone else is it's a good way to, engage with the athletes that you love watching, but it's also, nice that if they decide to leave, you're able to get that money back.
Little insurance built in, man. Everybody likes that kind of thing. Makes you feel a little safe. Like, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, as we get ready to let you go here, I've been very interested in hearing about, your journey and how you got to where you're at. But what about the Zach Nehring away from hockey? Let's hear about your hobbies. Let's hear about what you do for fun. Tell those fans out there, like, hey, I'm not just a machine. I'm not just a stud hockey player. I got other things I like to do. And then we'll close with one last thought as we get you out of here. So what's Zach Nehring like away from the rink?
I'm honestly a pretty chill guy. I'm always down to do whatever. I don't really ever like to plan anything. I just kind of go with the flow. Whatever people are doing, like I'm there. Love, any other sport besides hockey, I'm willing to do. I love it. And like I was talking about earlier, like I'm always down for a chess game, watching a movie, read. I need to start reading some books. I said that was my New Year's resolution. So maybe you'll find me at the library. But yeah, I'm just always down for whatever, just kind of hanging out with the boys and, just love being around them. It's always a good time.
I got to ask too, what's your hockey nickname? We all know that you all got them. What is it? Neary, Zachy, Zackus? I mean, it's got to be something like that, right?
I've had a few throughout the years, but the one that's stuck here is Ringer.
Ringer, there it is.
End of my name, so
beautiful. It's always a play off the name, like you just add an ER to it or an S to it. That's kind of the hockey moniker. So there it is, Zach the Ringer Nehring. I like that. And last thing, man, before we get you out of here, because I think I have a 5-year-old son. The fact that you started playing hockey at 2 is like incredible to me. So that's pretty inspiring as it is. What would be your message for any athlete out there young, trying to get into it? And you said, I thought that was cool too, how you said, like, I wasn't really the most notable prospect. There were other guys that were doing stuff earlier than me and ahead of me. So what's some advice that you would give out there to a young athlete trying to chase their dreams down like you've been able to?
Yeah, I would just say just stick with it. Like find what you love and go after it. I mean, you got to enjoy what you're doing. You want to be having fun. I can't imagine I'd be where I was if I didn't love the game. But yeah, I mean, it's a journey. There's ups and downs. So just stick with it. And if that's a dream you have, anything's possible.
I think you said it earlier. I don't remember if it was during the podcast or during the other stuff we were talking about, but you've never met an athlete ever who's had a perfect run, right? Like nobody.
Yeah.
Like that's the perfect way to put it.
Even the greatest athletes, I mean, they always talk about there's always a moment in their life where they've had adversity and had to persevere to become, the greatest of. Like MJ, he's a cool story too. He's missed countless of shots and then he makes millions of them because he's failed. So you just got to push through it and you can achieve anything you want.
There you have it. He is Zach Nehring. If you're not a fan of Western Michigan hockey, you should be now. I'm like I said at the beginning, I'm a Central alum, but I'll do a couple claps for Zach this year as he's wrapping up his season. I'm Brandon Brown. This has been the Roy Rundown. Thank you so much for everybody out there, and Zach, thanks a lot for your time, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.